Yes, people, a father and son have been jailed for life for the sickening murder of a family friend by repeatedly running over him in a supermarket car park. The Old Bailey heard that witnesses were shocked as Bobby Turnant, 32, drove the BMW X6 which crushed John Avers, who was held down by Gary Turnant, his father, aged 59. Mr. Avers, 47, who was heard screaming in a shocking CCTV footage, died at the scene in the Iceland car park in Dagenham, East London in September of 2020. The sentencing judge said this was a ruthless execution without mercy of a helpless man. It was a sustained and violent attack. His pain and anguish are immeasurable. Both defendants of Barking, East London, were found guilty of murder after a trial. They were both sentenced to life imprisonment, with the son Bobby Turnant to serve at least 25 years, while his father Gary Turnant will be serving a minimum of 23 years. The judge said there was significant mental and physical suffering inflicted upon Mr. Avers before he died. He cried out in pain and begged for help when Bobby Turnant, encouraged by Gary Turnant, attacked him. He was unable to move, was held down by Gary Turnant and watched in horror as Bobby Turnant drove at him. It was not possible for the pathologist to establish the order of his many injuries or determine which of them was fatal. However, even assuming that he lost consciousness after the first time you ran him over, the terror of the impending impact, which he was helpless to escape, is an aggravating factor. Police and medics found Mr. Avers in a large pool of blood, and he was pronounced dead at 12:22 a.m. on September the 14th, 2020. A post-mortem found he had suffered multiple injuries, including fractures to the skull, sternum, pelvis, left thigh and 22 ribs. The Turnants had been out drinking on the day of the murder and used a clone car with false plates as a weapon. As part of his evidence to the court, Bobby Turnant suggested Mr. Avers had asked him to look after 40 grand of stolen money and give him an unregistered phone in connection with the matter, which has never been found after he threw it out a window. The judge described this as a self-contradictory account, which was no more than an attempt to discredit Mr. Avers, paint him as an aggressor, or make it look as though he had asked to meet you both and then made threats to you. She said there was no credible evidence that Mr. Avers had possessed stolen money or set up the meeting. She could not say why Mr. Avers attended the meeting, but it was the Turnants' joint plan when they set off to work together to cause him at least really serious bodily harm. The judge said that a suggestion that Bobby Turnant threw 40 grand out the window as he drove away from the scene and cannot remember where this is ridiculous. The fatal attack began when Bobby Turnant pulled Mr. Avers from the back of the car by his throat before grappling and knocking him to the ground. Witness heard Mr. Avers cry out, help me, the judge said. He also kicked him in the head as he lay on the ground and held him down. The father and son then swapped places so that Bobby was at the wheel while his father pinned Mr. Avers down by his arms. He was crying out in pain and was down on the ground. He was hurt and was unable to get up. You made sure he did not get up. By then you must have known what your son planned to do next. A helpless Mr. Avers could only watch on in unimaginable horror as the car was deliberately driven at him as Gary Turnant stepped away, the judge added. Both Turnants were in the car which was being driven at such speed that it crashed into a parked vehicle as they ran over Mr. Avers again. Bobby Turnant then drove off and later set light to his clothes and the car before fleeing in his socks. Yeah, that's it for this one, people. Rest in peace to Mr. Avers, and like, comment, subscribe, check back for more, yeah? Peace.